CJ coming in here being, I guess, he's been here, what, 3 weeks maybe? I mean, I would never know that. I mean, I would have thought he.
I understand why people around this Houston Texans organization, they're shocked about this with CJ Stroud because he's such a young guy. He just got to the team and all that nice stuff. But me personally, no, I expected this out of him. Trust me when I say this, I wish I could sit up here and say to you guys, man, I'm shocked about this news and I'm shocked to hear this about CJ Stroud, but I'm not. In today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we got another update on CJ Stroud, and I find this one really fascinating, and I think you guys are going to as well. I'm really excited to get into this video because I'm not going to do all the talking and try to convince you. I'm going to let Case Keenum try to convince you. Whoa, hold on. I know what a lot of you are sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, Case Keenum, what in the crap does his opinion have to do with anything? That is a great question, my friend, and I have an even better answer. Because he is currently a quarterback for the Houston Texans. Maybe some of y'all knew that, but I feel like there's a good majority of you that didn't know that. He is currently the third string quarterback on that team. Nobody talks about him, though, because obviously he's not in there to play. He's more so of like a veteran leader brought into the team. I think a great comparison would be like a Udonis Haslem for the Heat. And by the way, am I the only one who feels this way? There is no point of Udonis Haslem even being on the Heat's roster because he's not going to play. And I get it. He's not there to play. He's there to mentor the team and be a leader. But if you just want him to help coach some of the guys up, just make him an assistant coach or put him on the coaching staff. Don't waste a roster spot. I just think it's time for Udonis Haslem to wrap it up, but that's besides the point. We're not here to talk about that in today's video. We're here to talk about CJ Stroud, but also another minor topic going on with the NFL. I don't think it deserves its entirely separate video itself, but we're going to talk about it in this one. Another player in the NFL has been caught gambling. Let me ask you a question. Does the NFL have a serious gambling problem? I never heard of something like this going on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but in the past couple of years, it seems like we hear this news story every couple of months. I do want to speak on that as well. Those are the only two topics we're going to go over in today's video. All right, Matt, blah, 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 shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get in. Okay, so first things first, let's take a look at this gambling situation. I only want to talk about it for a couple of minutes here. I do find it interesting, though, and I think you guys will as well. So, news reports came out. A Colts player is being investigated for gambling on games, and there's evidence the player placed hundreds of wagers, including bets involving the Colts. Yeah, that is a big no-no. Continuing along here, the player is not considered a quote-unquote star, but the average fan has likely heard of him. Those reports came out, and then shortly after that came out, we got an idea of who the player was. Update: Isaiah Rodgers has been identified as the player being investigated for possible violations of the NFL's gambling policy. Rodgers has played 1,500 plus total snaps in 3 years and started 9 games last season. And last but not least, I will show you this. It is pretty much Isaiah Rodgers where he wrote this huge long message, and I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I ain't reading all that. Well, I did read all of it, but I'm not reading it again. Long story short, don't want to bore you. He said, sorry, I effed up. Just the typical I made a mistake and I'll try to do better type of tweet. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you guys, man, this is bad. Players shouldn't be doing it because we know this. Here's what I got to say. I have a lot of different questions because it seems like just within the past year or two alone, we've seen so many cases like this. I remember when the news broke about Calvin Ridley, I was like, wait, what? A player gambling on games? That's crazy. And then, well, fast forward in time to today, I'm like, oh yeah, another player got caught gambling on games. It is what it is. Think about it. We've had the Calvin Ridley situation. We've had now this situation, also the situations with the Lions involving Jameson Williams. And that's just the players that have gotten caught. They're just stupid enough to get caught. With that being said, my question in all of this is, how many other players are doing this that aren't getting caught? Do I think it's a lot? No, not really, but there's definitely some more people doing this. You mean to sit up here and tell me that these are the only people that are gambling on games? Come on, man. There's got to be at least, I'm talking about at least 5 other people guilty of this. And that's bare minimum. We don't know. This could be bigger than what we actually think. I don't want to overhype this situation, but I'm starting to think the NFL has a legit and serious gambling problem going on. And at first glance, you could sit up here and say, oh, well, as long as you're not gambling on your team, it shouldn't matter. It's not that big of a deal, and I disagree. I understand where you're coming from, and I used to think that way, but here's why I disagree. Let's say, for example, Calvin Ridley, he just bets on a random game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks. No harm, no foul. Calvin Ridley's not playing in the game, so he has no weight on the outcome. And that's a fair point, but, and I have a big but, he could call up one of his buddies on Seahawks and be like, hey, man, I put down $50,000 on this game, so if you can drop a pass for me, if you can fumble a snap or do something crazy that helped me out. You see what I'm saying? That's why just in general, I think gambling for NFL players is a big no-no, and we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It is kind of crazy though, all these guys are just recently getting busted, because it now has me thinking this crap has been going on for years, we just haven't caught it. We'll see what happens there. We'll see. I could talk about that topic for probably 50 minutes, but we got to get a move on to the main top of the main encore, the main reason you clicked onto this video. We got to talk about good old CJ Stroud. Yet again, we've been talking about him a lot recently, and it's for good reason and cause. He was the number 2 player selected in this most recent NFL draft. There's a lot of hype surrounding him. Now, the last time we talked about CJ Stroud and where we left off, Davis Mills said about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm going to be competing for that starting job, and about 4 or 5 days ago, it was announced that CJ Stroud has completely taken over this team, and he's getting all the first team reps, or most of them. Long story short, CJ Stroud humbled Davis Mills. And the funniest part about it is it only took like 3 or 4 weeks. But now we got a new update, and this isn't coming from sources or reports. This is coming from the Houston Texans' third-string quarterback, Case Keenum. But first things first, check out what the Texans tight end had to say about CJ. CJ is bright. His attitude and demeanor are kind of almost understated at times. He walks through pretty humble, head down, soft voice. Continuing along, but when you start to interact with him, the kid just oozes confidence. Obviously, everyone is familiar with what he did at Ohio State. The kid is a baller. Couldn't agree anymore. And the thing I love about CJ Stroud the most, and it could be I guess you could label as a weakness, is yeah, he's extremely humble and he's to himself. He's not a vocal leader, and I think he's trying to work on that, because at the NFL level, you got to be vocal. But here's what I wanted to show you the most. Case Keenum said, CJ coming in here, I guess he's been here 3 weeks maybe. I would have never known that. I would have thought he's been here for a year, been in the league, been a 4 or 5 year vet. I'm going to show you the entire clip where he said this. Matt wrote a clip.
CJ coming in here being, I guess, he's been here, what, 3 weeks maybe? I mean, I would never know that. I mean, I would have thought he'd been here a year, been in the league, been a 4 or 5 year vet, like being able to call plays, like from a guy that's never really, he's no huddled in college, and to come in and run a pro style offense that's wordy. Like it's not just like all go. Like that's not, there's a lot more than that. So and to go and operate and to be extremely accurate. And a lot of zip on the ball and great feet, under center stuff. He's not afraid to try new things, and has jumped right in and not missed a beat. So I've been really impressed with both those guys.
Interesting. What do y'all think about that? Case Keenum stating that CJ Stroud's looking like a 4 or 5 year vet. And like we talked about in the intro, maybe some of y'all are shocked by this. Maybe Case Keenum was shocked by it, but I wouldn't be. The dude's good. I've been keeping up with him since high school. The dude can play. I said it last year. I'm going to say it again. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young were 1A, 1B in the draft. When you're talking about an ideal prospect coming out of the collegiate level, CJ Stroud is as close to perfect as it's going to get. They don't make too many guys out here that are about 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds and have a cannon of an arm that is also, and this is the key part about this, also extremely accurate coming out of college. That's the key word, because Will Levis, yeah, he checks off all those boxes except for the accuracy. CJ Stroud is so talented, so gifted, and arguably my favorite part about him the most is he's humble. And just look at the history of NFL quarterbacks. Which ones tend to be the most successful? The humble ones. All of your quarterbacks that have been taken in the first round that have a huge ego, like Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel, Josh Rosen. Y'all remember Josh Rosen, right? All of these guys that are overconfident, too cocky, they don't work out. But when you have young men like this who come into the NFL understanding and realizing they have a lot to learn, well, they do good. I don't think it's a coincidence. It's the same thing in life. If you walk around this life like you know it all, you're going to get humbled quickly. But if you have a calm demeanor about you, you understand, you're a young swan, you need to get teached or taught by the OG Grandmaster, you're going to learn a lot. The last thing I'm going to show y'all is where Houston's running back stated, quote unquote, the only thing I tell him every time I'm on the field with him is to command the huddle and don't shy away from the leadership role. You've got guys on the team who are behind you and here to lift you up. There you have it. If you want to knock on CJ Stroud early on in his career at the Texans, the only bad thing you can say about him is he needs to be more vocal. He needs to own the team a little bit more, but also I think that goes back to he's walking on eggshells. He doesn't want to do too much too quickly. Keeping up with CJ Stroud when he first got to Ohio State to where he finished, when he first got there, he wasn't as, you didn't see the confidence and swagger, but in his final year there, you could see it. He had all control of that team. And I think the same thing is going to happen for the Texans. Give him a couple games to get in there, feel his rhythm out, get a little groovy, and he'll look like a franchise quarterback, I guarantee it. He'll start to get that swagger and moxie to him, and he'll be more of a leader. I'm not worried about CJ Stroud. And that's the best part about CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. There's no character concerns. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But, Robert!